how do you get someone to care about something that they do not think about? If you're like me and billions of other people in the world, your email is a Gmail, and that Gmail is the gateway to a variety of other things that you use in your life. If you were to lose access to that email, you could be losing access to decades of emails. And because emails are often the logins to other services, your connection to all those other services. What's the risk of losing your account? And if you do lose access to your account, what is the chance that you can recover it? And I have to say, the situation for a lot of people is dire. On the Google account community help forums, I and other product experts see every day hundreds and hundreds of posts of people who've lost access to their Google accounts. They've forgotten their Google account password. They don't have a recovery email and recovery phone. And the sad thing is that this situation is precisely the situation that cannot be helped. The reason is that Google has moved to basically an entirely automated account recovery process. There is no one that you can escalate things to get support. Unfortunately, by the time a lot of people are thinking about this, it's too late. Because if you can't access your account, it's too late to set up that information. This issue is so vexing to my other product experts and me that we have come up with so many guides and videos and articles to try to explain to people the importance of having all this information on the account. The problem is no one cares to read the guide until it's too late. How do you get someone to care about something that they aren't thinking about? And I think that one of the ways to do it is clickbait. And so I'm hoping that if you clicked on this because of the clickbait, that you will pay attention to this video. And I also want to use this as a challenge. As I'm going through these different scenarios, go into your own Google account or go into whatever account is most important and try to see if this is something that affects you. I had to realize painfully that I had some situations where if it happened to me, I might not be able to recover my account. And so for the average person who may not be thinking about these things as much as I do, it may be even worse. Let's think about this. How could you possibly lose access to your Google account? What we see commonly is that people don't actively remember their passwords. They may sign in on a device that they use frequently, and they stay logged in. It's a great feature for convenience, but because of that, they're relying on being signed into their device, maybe signed in to their phone. And so if their phone is lost or their phone is factory reset, it's broken, or there's something else that happens, they don't know their password to get in. Google expects that a person knows their password. If you don't know your password, you have to go through the account recovery process, and that requires having recovery phone, recovery email, where if the device you lost was your phone, you might be in a jam. What's a way around this? Security people will recommend that you need to have unique and secure and complex passwords. And it's very difficult for people to think of unique, complex passwords. And so the typical advice for this is password managers that generate the password for you, that save it securely. All you need to do is remember the password to the password manager. Some of them will even autofill for you. So I would highly recommend picking a password manager. But then the next question becomes, what kind of password manager should you use? And this is another area where you should be careful. Think about this. If you've lost access to your Google account, then you will not have access to other Google services, such as a Google Password Manager. So I would suggest that you probably want to get a password manager that is not also connected with your core device, not tied to your core login. I don't necessarily have specific recommendations for password managers, but I would recommend one that has some capability of being cloud-based or of allowing you to sync information between different devices. That way, if you need to get another device, it's easy for you to log in and then have access to all of that. Increasingly, companies are realizing, though, that passwords aren't really that great because a lot of people aren't setting unique, complex passwords, aren't using password managers. And so what they're doing is increasingly they're implementing two-step verification, or two-factor authentication is what most companies that are not Google would call that. And that's to say, in addition to something your password, you need to have something that you have that even if a hijacker or a hacker got your password, they shouldn't have this other thing. And so by having that second step, you are further strengthening the case that it's you and not some illegitimate actor. The challenge is, and increasingly as services start to push this, users are in trouble when they lose access, because even if they have access to that password, even if they know their password, they don't have access to that two-step verification. Or if they set up a two-step verification, they have not made sure to diversify. And so that two-step verification may be linked to the device that is inaccessible. Let me give an example. A lot of Android phones, for example, have built-in security keys. I'm not going to go into the technical details of what that entails, but what that means is that Google trusts that if you use your fingerprint or whatever on, a Pixel phone or a Samsung phone, then that can count as a secure second factor. But let's think of the scenario. If your phone has broken, or you've lost your phone, or your phone has been factory reset, then do you still have access to that method? Maybe, maybe not. So you need to have something that isn't just one degree of failure. You need to have redundancies. So again, a lot of password managers are now offering to save the one-time passcodes that change every 60 seconds or whatever. And for sites that offer that, you can save that along with your password so that it'll generate that code every however long it does, and it will sync based on other devices. There's things like Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator. Everyone has an authenticator. But ask yourself, is that dependent on a specific device? Could you load it on another device and sync between them? Because some of those security apps don't offer syncing at all. A lot of people aren't using these security apps. A lot of companies are using SMS or text-based codes. Again, in our situation, your phone has been whisked away. It's in the river. It's broken. It's gone. Whatever the case may be, would you still be able to receive those text codes? Maybe that shouldn't be your only second-step verification. Usually when you're setting up a second-step verification, the system or the service in question will ask you to save backup codes. None of us do that, because even I don't do that. And I realized we have these backup codes, and at the time of setting up those two-step verification options, most sites will be very explicit. If you do not have the two-step verification, there is no way to bypass it. You must have the backup codes, or else you will not be getting this account back. And like most things, we read over it and skip over it and ignore it, and we never care about it until it's too late. How can you make someone care about something that they don't care about? If you've fallen for this clickbait and you're still with me on this video, just think about losing all of your online history because you didn't have a second-step verification. Maybe you should write down a backup code here or there. Let's say you have forgotten your password, or you may know your password, but you don't have any of your two-step verifications. You don't have any of your backup codes. Then for Google, the only option left is account recovery. Now, as I've mentioned, account recovery at Google is increasingly automated, self-service only. There isn't anyone that you can appeal to. It's just you and the bot. And I think this bot is a little gremlin, because it always, in all the threads that I read from my users, they'll say things like, I have the recovery phone, but I don't have a recovery email. And even though I get the code to my phone, it still asks me for my email. On the other hand, some people say, I have a recovery email, but I don't have a recovery phone. And it keeps asking me for just the phone. How can I get it to ask my email? And so whatever algorithms they use, it seems to have a knack for finding people's weak spot that they don't have and then being really fixated on that. First of all, Google doesn't require you to add recovery phone and recovery email. It's optional, right? But if you think about your Google account as potentially being the gateway to your entire online life, you may want to consider adding a recovery phone and a recovery email. How many of you are using the same phone number that you've used 10 years ago, 20 years ago? For a lot of you, you may have changed phone numbers. And if you've changed your phone number, but you didn't go and change your recovery phone, you may be out of luck if you need to go through account recovery. Check to see if your recovery phone and email are up to date. If they're not, you might want to update that. Please note that even changing a recovery phone is a sensitive action. And so you may be asked to put in your password again or put in your two-step verification to confirm that action. And just if you struggle with that, even when you have access to the account, really think about what could happen if you weren't logged in and you couldn't make those changes. And then the second thing is, as a security measure, changes to recovery phones still allow the use of the previous recovery phone for a period of 7 days. So I actually want to go into another piece about recovery phones. One of the Google services I use is Google Voice. The challenge is, if you set your recovery phone as a Google Voice number and you lose access to the account that the Google Voice number belongs to, then you will also lose access to the ability to receive any codes to that Google Voice number. You may still want to consider that whatever your carrier number is, even if you don't use it for any other purposes, to have that as your recovery phone, because then that's an area where even if you can't get into your Google account, you'll still be able to get those recovery phone codes. So what are some other factors that might help convince the bot that you are who you say you are? It's looking for things to be familiar. So logins from familiar devices that have been used to log into the account before, and logins to familiar locations that the device has been used to log in before. What often gets people in trouble is they've been logging in from their phone. That's the only device that they've logged into. And now they've lost their phone and they don't have any other devices that they've used to log into their Google accounts. And that can be really challenging because now Google thinks this is a weird new device that I've never seen before, trying to get into this account. And it may either require more information, both the recovery phone and the recovery email. It may ask for more things to be confident. So if at all possible, you want to have familiar devices. But then the other thing is familiar location. A lot of times people say, hey, I moved. I don't have access to that location. And that's just, it's an implicit strike against you when you're trying to go into that account. The thing that I see gets a lot of people in trouble is when they are trading in or buying a new phone, because they'll give up the old phone and then start setting up the new phone. And this can get them in trouble because all of the second factors for two-step verification are with that old phone. Or maybe that phone has been wiped and so they don't exist anymore. If at all possible, when you're doing a phone trade-in and you can do it, you want to make sure that you set up the new phone before relinquishing the old phone. That way you can check for yourself if you haven't changed over any of the security factors, because if it asks and pings your old phone, you could say, oh, that's definitely a setting that I need to change. But if that phone's already gone, it's going to still keep pinging that phone, but you won't be able to do anything about it. If you've gotten this far in the video, I want you to comment, score yourself on all these scenarios, and ask yourself, would you have been locked out of your Google account at any point in this video if these scenarios happened to you? There's no prizes. If you made it through this entire video intact, pat yourself on the back. But I have a feeling, I have a suspicion that if you were like me, there are at least some scenarios where you would be in a bad place. So if this clickbait worked and you click this video, this is your public service announcement to check. That'll be all for today. Thanks.